But anyway, Rog, I wanted to look at the Olympics. So that's been playing right through, and it's been awesome to see and awesome to watch. New Zealand's actually done quite well,
Mm.
which is also good to see. But obviously, this is a rugby podcast. So I wanted to look at the sevens. But mate, what have you made of the results? So just a bit of a recap. So on the women's side, New Zealand got the gold, France got the silver, and Fiji got bronze.
Yeah.
And in the men's, it was Fiji who took the gold, then New Zealand silver, and Argentina bronze. So, what did you make of the sevens overall, and anything about anything that happened?
I just think the build up leading into it, the New Zealand Sevens, the men's team were looking at righting the wrong as to what happened 5 years ago, years before in Rio, where a lot of hype was around them making a massive challenge for the gold or medal, but they came away with none of that 5 years ago, and they had a superstar-studded team. So I think they were sort of wanting to, rectify that this year with the group of guys who obviously had been out and out sevens players involved right through for the last few seasons in the World Series. So I was happy with their silver. It was unfortunate they came unstuck in that gold medal match, but in the final against Fiji. But Fiji just had too much flair, and it just seemed like they were exhausted, the New Zealand team, and it didn't matter what they tried to fire. It seemed very defensive. They didn't have too much of an offense to come up against the Fiji defense. So Fiji broke their hearts once again, but to come away with a silver, a medal, is something that they've achieved for the first time in New Zealand Sevens history. So they can be, I believe, very proud of their efforts there. But it just seemed they almost came unstuck against some of the teams in pool play. It, although they finished quite comfortably, there were times when whether they had lapses that would make me sort of concerned about, is this, can they really challenge a Fiji, or can they really take this kind of form leading into a gold medal match? Then that was the hope anyway. And so even against Canada, there were a few questions, but um, obviously the results went their way in the end. But they made hard work of some of their performances. But I guess they'll be very, very proud once they get past the disappointment of not getting gold. They can hold their heads up high. I was really gutted for Caleb Clark not getting a chance to, to play at the Olympics. That was a goal of his for last year, 2020, when he aimed for that. But then the silver lining is that Sevens was put on hold due to the pandemic, and he became an All Black instead. So maybe did the reverse this year, try to, you know, get an Olympic berth, but was a travelling reserve, which was disappointing. But at the same time, he was a part of that team, and he would have pushed those guys hard who were the 13 selected to be the Olympic squad. So there was a reason why he was there, and he just happened to miss out. But he could be still proud of his efforts, and I'm sure whether that rolls around again in 3 years' time, the next Olympics doesn't seem too far away, being 3 years. But then he's got the World Cup to contend with. But I know, guys, players that try to go between the two disciplines, it's they're very different types of sport, despite being both rugby. So the training that they have to put their bodies through to get up to speed with sevens could have been the reason why, I don't know. But then that Caleb was a little bit out of sorts. But again, with the competition for spots and these guys vying for spots, and Olympics is a dream for a lot of them, for all of them. So that he just didn't quite get the opportunity. But I'm pretty sure he'll reflect on it being one of those times during his career that would obviously enhance and develop and improve moving forward for him. He's still young. Whether he gets a chance again to do it, the next Olympics, who knows? But then we'll see where he goes in terms of his All Black journey as well. But with the women's team, I believe they were class right from the beginning, and it seemed like again their disappointment from 4 5 years ago in Rio, where they finished runners up. So and then they just want to go that one better. And against rivals like Australia, and Australia didn't feature this time in any of the medals because they were pretty much eliminated um, by Fiji, I believe it was. Fiji, yeah, upset them earlier on. So, but then, yeah, they had one more game, but then they missed out on that game. I can't remember. Great Britain that knocked them out eventually. So, but there's that camaraderie that the men sevens have. You know, obviously the girls have it as well, but you had Portia Woodman, um, Michaela Blyde, and then Ruby Tui, among others, Nathan Wong as well. Which these girls have been wanting to do this as well for to and hard work in the 4 or 5 years in between, and the disappointment of it being postponed 1 year just meant that they needed to put even more work into getting a medal or trying to get to that gold, and then the disappointment of not having Niall Williams involved due to injury earlier this year was a massive um, motivating factor for the girls as well as um, the captain Sarah Herdeny now, the loss of her mother earlier, and that was a massive motivator for the girls. But having been together for 7 weeks leading up to the Olympics, and then going over to Oceania in Australia before the Olympics as well, and doing well there, just put them in good stead to and then, but still at the same time not guaranteed because any team on the day, but then their performances just were nail biting, and then Fiji gave them a little bit of a scare as well. Um, so they did really well to command the spot, and then end up finishing against France 26-12, and the French just didn't seem to be in it. They didn't have the legs or didn't have the attacking prowess that the girls were showing, the Black Ferns were showing. So really, really proud that they could do it, and it was etched all over their faces. As soon as that's been a massive feature because it's been such a journey for them to work towards these goals, and right across the Olympics, athletes they got this the steel look because they're in competition mode, but then as soon as there's the results come up, they lose it emotionally, and we saw that with our Black Ferns at the blow of the whistle. They could have gone on; they still had the ball in possession, and they could have gone and tried for another a try, but kicked it out, and then you know, Nathan Wong breaks down in tears. Sarah Goss slash Hiddeney is crying and all battered and bruised, but the job was done, and then now they can relax and just let out the emotions, and it just shows how much it means to them and the amount of work and effort that can go into a discipline, into a sport, and not necessarily get the result that you want, but still, and it can be quite emotional for you, and especially when it does come out on the right side and they get an award, get a medal or win a competition. So well done to the teams, and yeah, it was a massive good spectacle to watch, despite not having spectators at the stadium. But yeah, it was awesome to witness it.
Yep, yep, agree with all of that, Rog. Yeah, I felt for Caleb. I'm with you on that Caleb Clark one. Like he sacrificed his All Black jersey, and there's no guarantees he can get it back. I think I was watching the All Blacks. I went to one of their games, the All Blacks when they played Tonga, and it was George Bridge was playing left wing, and he was just getting so many opportunities, but he's not that out and out big strong finisher, super speed, super fast guy. So he wasn't able to finish those half chances. And I remember watching it thinking, shucks, if that was Caleb Clark, if he was there, he would have got about 5 or 6 tries, and then he's just cemented his spot even further. So he sacrificed a lot there. I really wanted him to play. I think you touched on some really good points about the previous Olympics. Some of those 15s guys they had Akira Ioane was there, Sonny Bill Williams, Rico Ioane's another guy, and a few others. Really outstanding 15s guys who probably didn't transition to sevens as well as they would have hoped, and I thought that cost them a little bit. So this time around, they basically stuck with the guys that had been there right through, and with COVID as well, and under this normal circumstances, they'd probably play about 4 or 5 warm-up tournaments, and that would give Caleb Clark a lot more opportunity
Mm.
to adjust and acclimatise to sevens. But with COVID, there's no international seven circuit anymore, and just in that build-up, it was hard for him to make that transition with that lack of games. So yeah, I felt for him a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, that Fiji men's team, they were just they were a class above, weren't they?
Yeah. And Tui, what's the halfbacks their playmaker's name? Jiri Tuisova. Man. So he's now a double gold medalist.
Two-time Olympian.
Two-time
Yeah,
Olympian,
two-time
two-time
gold.
gold medalist. Fiji's never had that, and he's the only one that can now say that. That's crazy. That's sort of, even though Waisale never won a medal
Yeah,
of this sort of an Olympic equivalent, he's still legendary because of the exports that he had in sevens. But then Jiri now, he's up there in terms of legendary status in the sevens world because he's a two-time gold medalist. No one can take that. No one can even say that because no, it's never happened before. It's the first two Olympics where sevens have been involved. So will he be
yeah,
around for a third? Holy, who knows, eh?
yeah. They did it rough as well, Fiji, because Fiji have got no money there. They have not, so they weren't going have all the facilities and all the rest of it, and the
Yeah,
the luxury travel and all the rest of it. They worked on bare minimum, and they were away from their families for long periods of time. So to overcome what they've overcome to get the gold, you got to give them a lot of credit. And Argentina winning the bronze, I thought Fiji and New Zealand would be there or thereabouts, but I didn't think Argentina were that good. So they shocked Australia in the first game, and that's when I sort of stood up a bit and thought, oh, this Argentina team is pretty good. So, man, big ups to them for getting a bronze, and also France for getting silver in the women's. I did not see that one at all either. So, yeah, it's good as well. There's a few upsets in there, and yeah, big big credit to all of those people involved in the sevens there.
yeah. I think it's that they had that speedster Argentina. Um, can't remember his name, but he's only 21, and he was the
I
one.
saw him. Yeah, he's a new young guy. So keep an eye out because a lot of those sevens guys end up being 15s guys. They had Mateus Moroni as a guy. Delgi played sevens, and then they become 15s
Oh yeah, cut
outside
out of
back
yeah.
superstars. So
Oh,
yeah, so I can't remember his name. I know the guy you're talking about.
Marcos Maneta, I think his name was, his 21-year-old. That was a flyer. He had the blue tape on his
Yeah,
legs. So it was like, surely that tape better work or that tape must mean something. Keep
yeah,
his hamstrings intact. But yeah, he had some speed. And whether he can transfer that across to the 15s game, who knows? But it looks like he'll be a seven specialist. I guess a guy that has been able to make the transition in the New Zealand team time and time again is Andrew Newstub. So that quality of player that he has become, and then obviously dedicating more to sevens in the last season or two for the Olympics, just goes to show the quiet competitive nature that he is, and he seemed to be quite an inspirational figure in amongst the New Zealand team because he carved that. I'm not sure what the actual name of that wood carving that they would hold at the beginning of their games.
oh,
So
okay.
he actually carved that, and so that was
Oh
massive.
wow, I did not know
Yeah,
that.
that was massive in terms of the cultural aspect that they're trying to build within the team and introducing Māoridom even more because that seemed to be a massive factor. I know we have the haka that they do for both female and the men, and obviously in the 15, but it just seems like bringing the team together even more is its involvement in a team environment seems to be something that they're utilizing a lot more in professional sport, let alone in our international teams. So, yeah, it was just interesting to see. And then the commentators stating that, yeah, Andrew Newstub, who to you and I and to the You know, the uneducated spectator would not expect that from someone that looks very, very
Right.
Caucasian, but obviously very proud
Mm.
of his Māori roots as well.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really good. When the rowing team when they won their gold medals, and it was the New Zealand Sevens team that got together and they did their song and sang a Māori song and did a haka and all the rest of it. So you're right about that team culture and building it. Team spirit and all the rest of it. So that's carried them a long way. And guys like Andrew Newstubb are going to be more critical because you think, well, I'm assuming Tim Mickelson, he's 35. I'm assuming he's going to be hanging up the boots soon. He's been around forever in the sevens. Scott Curry's 30 something. So it's up to these guys like Newstubb who will become the senior players to really step up and carry the team forward. So yeah, good call on that one. But yeah, the sevens that was a good watch. So I'm glad that New Zealand got their medals as well because I remember I'll never forget the women's team in particular. They were crying when they got their silver.
Yeah, yeah.
They basically lost that final in the last minute
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
so they
Tight.
should have
That
got
was a
gold.
tight game, but you know it's really hard when because there's different sports where you don't progress through to the same format like the football or the rugby because you look at something like swimming. It's just one. Everyone knows right there in the final where you place, and that's it. Whereas something like the rugby, the format that it has, yep, you lose out in pool play, then you progress to the next stage, and so there's nothing to sneeze at about a silver, but obviously in the moment when you lose a final and the revelation doesn't quite set in that you've lost, but actually you've won a silver medal, which is a massive accomplishment and something that they'll if they never make it back and Mickelson doesn't come back to another Olympics and I think age is not on his side, but I'm pretty sure he'll be reflecting back and probably sipping some margarita with DJ Forbes and say, "Silly, I've got a medal."
Yeah.
but but hey,
Oh.
DJ knows. Hey, he's an Olympian, and no one can take that away from
Yep,
age.
that's right. That's right. Yep. No, good thoughts there on the sevens. I just wanted to say quickly as well. Michaela Blyde, you
Oh,
talked about her
yeah,
earlier, and Sheree. I think Sheree Kaka. They were the two. They were in the two on standby at the last Olympics, and they sat through just waiting in case someone got injured. So they never got to play. They were the travelling reserve, so they didn't get a silver medal that last time. And I saw one of her posts where she had said that after that they just worked hard just to get that moment now. So 4 years ago they're sitting on the sidelines just watching as travelling reserves, and now they get to play and get to celebrate. So just talking about all that level of hard work, but yeah, the Olympics. Congrats to all the teams that got medals and to all those who competed because not everyone was able to win. But there's some teams that look like they could be growing a lot in the through the sevens program. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. But the Bledisloe Cup. This is the one last thing I wanted to touch on. We've got a game that sort of snuck up a little bit.
yeah.
I didn't even realise that it's on. It's on this weekend. Australia, New Zealand. Mate, have you got any thoughts or any thoughts regarding selection for the All Blacks? Anything you think might come up? Any weird selections?
Uh,
Or what are you making of the game as well?
I think I'm excited, but it has slipped under the radar because of the Olympics and because of the excitement with all of the New Zealand athletes on the world stage in Tokyo. But um, it's really hard to say. It'd be interesting to see whether Brody Retallick is thrust straight into it and against the Wallabies. I'm picking so. I'm pretty sure he's done enough in the past as well as to prove his worth in those mid-season, mid-year tests to earn a start against the Wallabies. Be interesting to see how he goes against the Wallabies as well. But I'm looking at who would they include in the front row because they've got a few. I know George Bell was kept in as injury cover. You got Nepo Laulala, Tunukuafe, sorry. He's there. But yeah, whether Ofa Tungafasi is fit enough and is cleared from an injury to take a post there as well. But not too sure who they would, but just excited to see who gets the opportunity. I guess Richie Mo'unga, see how he goes again. Sorry, Stace.
Hello?
Are you still there? Oh.
Yep. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, you can't see me?
Now, carry on. I can hear you, so you can just carry on. Carry on with your points.
No, yeah. So I'm hoping that the likes of Cody Taylor, I don't know whether Cody Taylor or Asafo Omoa gets a chance, but then you got Dane Coles. I'm picking Dane Coles will be starting at hooker. But then Cody Taylor, I mean, there's not too much between the two. I reckon Cody Taylor over the last couple of seasons has proved to be probably the number one hooker. Dane Coles having come back from injury. But yeah, Sam Whitelock, it'll be whoever's going to, out of Scott Barrett, Brody Retallick, to partner with Sam. But then it'll be interesting to see which combination they go with in the flanks, because you've got Jacobson, Adi Savia, Akira Ioane, and Hoskins, as well as, and that's not even including guys like Dalton Papali'i and Shannon Frizzell. So I'm looking, probably they'll go with Adi, number 8, Hoskins, or Luke Jacobson, a close brackets there. But and they even missed out Ethan Blackadder. Ethan Blackadder, I really like the way he's been playing for the Crusaders, and the couple of seasons, a couple of tests with the All Blacks mid-year. So yeah, he's a real nuggety player. He's got a bit of mongrel, doesn't back down to nobody. So he's in there. And similar, I just remember his dad being like that too when we used to see Todd Blackadder play as a lock as well. But obviously Ethan adds a little bit on the side of the scrum. So that should be interesting to see whether he gets inclusion in this first up test. Bowden Barrett or Richie Mo'unga. I don't know. I'm thinking they probably have Richie start at 10 and then Bowden Barrett at the back and fullback. But who I've been really impressed with, having been in All Black Wilderness for a few seasons, is David Havili, and how he's been able to play in the last couple of seasons with the Crusaders and really command a spot and put his hand up to say, "Hey, I'm not going anywhere. Don't forget about me. This is what I can do." And seeing his versatility and playing where he has been asked to play for the Crusaders has obviously been reward enough for him to command a spot as a versatile player for the All Blacks now. From playing centre through to fullback. So, and he did really well against that in that first test. So, and to score a couple of tries as well. So, welcome back, David Havili. But it'd be interesting to see how they do manage Braden Enor's reintroduction to international rugby. So, obviously, like you said, released for NPC duties with Canterbury, and they're managing that. And because he's a young player, again, a lot of speed and pace for a big boy, and who can play comfortably in the centres as well as on the wing. But I think whoever they do put out there is going to be a massive sort of rude awakening for the Wallabies, because it doesn't matter who they put out there. And like you said, George Bridge commanding a spot as an All Black again, and making it difficult for the likes of a guy like Caleb Clark coming back in. But then you're looking at guys like Will Jordan. Haven't even included Anton Leonard-Brown in that centre conversation yet as well. And then you got Damien Mckenzie, who hasn't. Does he feature as well? Or, obviously a versatile replacement to bring on, whether you need him at first 5 or at the back. So Yeah, we're sort of sport for riches in all the positions, even at scrum half as well. And we know those usual suspects there, and Smith, Webber, and Finley Christie trying to take up the third spot. But TJ Penina's back.
Yeah, good thoughts there. I wanted to, when the season started, I don't know if the All Blacks knew who their best team was. And now I think some guys have nailed some jerseys, and there's still some which are still up in the air. And it'll be interesting to see, because I think Foster, in my opinion, he should pick his best, who he thinks is his best 15 now. So it'll be interesting to see who he thinks it is. I agree with you on Harvey. I think he grabbed the 12 jersey. That was one of the jerseys that was up in the air. So I think he's grabbed it. And Luke Jacobson, in my eyes, I thought he was one of the best forwards in those 3 games. So I think he grabbed the 8 jersey. And I don't know if he would have been at the start of the season if he was their first choice number 8. So, yeah, it's a little bit more clearer. But like you say, the outside backs, who goes where. Will Jordan's been outstanding. They've got to probably find a spot for him. I think Sevu Reece has been good too. So uh, if they've got so much versatility amongst the players, so it's how they fit everyone in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just really interested to see who Foster thinks is their best team.
That's the
So
$1 million question, yeah, and see whether they'll fit him, because even Quinn Tupaia couldn't put a foot wrong in his debut either.
no,
And so,
he didn't do anything wrong.
uh,
Yeah, but just with Havili, when he got his games, he was the best player on the park. So I thought, well, he's grabbed that 12 jersey. Have you made anything of Australia? We haven't seen a lot of them since the Trans-Tasman, and they were pretty poor in that Trans-Tasman, to be fair. They had a really tight series with France, which I'm not sure if you watched much of that. I didn't catch much of it. One thing I will say, Marika Koroibete, who's probably one of their best players, he's been stood down for drinking past curfew. So that's going to be a huge loss for them.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I think he's
way.
probably the best player they got. He's not going to be playing. So have you make anything of this Australian team? I
Well,
think
I
Quade
did watch.
Cooper's been back training with the Wallabies. Quade Cooper.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That'll be interesting to see how that goes, and whether he gets a game or two. But I think it'll be interesting because obviously with Hooper back, and he was a standout in that series against
Yes,
France.
Hooper.
And it's really good that he's involved, because, man, and it just goes to show. And I think he'll even surpass your Uncle Alan Wynne Jones's record at internationals, the way that he's going, and
Oh,
how so young he is.
yeah.
Because I think,
He will. He probably will.
yeah, because he's obviously a young centurion, and he's not quite 30 yet, or he's nowhere near 30, and so. But yeah, his impact in the running lines that he has, his endurance in those games, it was massive against the French. Another guy that I quite like the look of in the French was good in Marika as well, but he was unfortunate that he got the red card. But that was a big farce in itself from New Zealand's referee. What's his name? Is it? Oh,
Oh, is that a New Zealand
yeah.
referee? I didn't see who it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, he gave him the red card. I was like, oh, no mitigation. But I think the Wallabies should be pretty good. Taniela Tupou had a good three tests as well. Whether it be he was used of the bench, but then at the same time he got a start. I think he got 1 or 2 starts out of that series, and he does really well, especially in ball in hand. But I think their scrummaging has improved against the French, and it was for the first time that, because as you know, Stace, I've supported the French at World Cups in the past, and this was the first time when Marika got his red card. I just couldn't believe it, and I just was quietly, for the first time, wanting Australia to win that game, and they did. They did in good style, and they got the young guy Noah Lolesio, and so he's been their first 5 and trying to get some. He's got some good tricks up his sleeve and being able to kick goals from all over the park. So young as well, about 2021. So yeah, they look good guns. And Hunter Paisami in the centres. Whether he can, he is a bit of a blockbusting, and it reminds me of the way that they utilised the Sam Tutu ball back in the early 2000s, and even Ma'a as well to an extent. But whether he'll have to, vary his game a bit against the All Blacks as well, and to even be able to get any type of ascendancy against them. And but Australia did really well. They lost the first test, the French one, and then obviously the decider. And so I think it puts them in good stead that they had good stiff opposition to warm them up coming into this rugby championship.
Yep, yeah, I agree with that. That first five, Noel Lolesio, you touched on, he had a really good series, a real breakout series, because I know they really had high hopes that James O'Connor was going to be the 10 there, and he's been out injured for quite a while now. So I think that's how Quade Cooper's got a recall with O'Connor out, and yeah, I'm just happy for Lolesio. He's had the promise for a bit now. He's been the up and coming guy for a bit. He was with the Wallabies under 20s that beat the New Zealand under 20s a couple of years ago. So a lot of those guys have graduated to this Wallabies side. So I know Joey, who's a regular on the podcast, he's picked Australia to win the next World Cup.
Yeah.
And if you look at their team, they've got guys like Lole Seal,
young.
Hunter Paisami, Lenny Kittel. They've got about 6 or 7 guys who are under 25. And, the theory is by 2023, they'll be starting to hit the peak of their powers. So, yeah, exciting times. But we'll get a prediction out of you, mate. Oh, yeah, carry on, and then we'll get a prediction.
Oh, no, that's fine. Again, it's just all about how young their team is. And they introduced, in that French series, they did introduce a lot of youngsters. So that's all part of the Dave Rennie plan, to keep. And that Dubol, he's going to be quite young still by the next World Cup. And, but by then he'll be one of the senior members, given his age. But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it all goes. But
yeah, have you got a prediction for us for this first Bledisloe?
Oh, sorry, did you want a prediction?
Yeah. We'll just get it for our listeners out there so we can laugh at you next week.
No, I reckon All Blacks by 14 points. So, yeah, All Blacks by 14 points.
Yeah, okay. For my prediction, I'm with you. I think the All Blacks will take it out. Eden Park is their spiritual home. I think the Wallabies last won there in 1986. So I don't think they've got a current member who was even born when they played, when they last got that win. So I don't see this current Wallabies team breaking that hoodoo. Yeah, I'll give the All Blacks by a good 15. So yeah, we're on the same page on that one. But we're about to close up, Roger. It's been a bit of a challenge with my poor internet connection, but we'll get some final thoughts from you, Rog, just in closing, and then I'll just wrap it up for us.
I think, I guess in general, just exciting to have a lot of sports that we'll be able to be spectators of leading into this.